Hey, boys and girls, this is Mr. D back with the second chapter of Days with Frog and Toad. We're doing a great job in this next project that we're doing, coming up with the life cycle of a frog and trying to build a model of a frog or toad, because we're learning about amphibians science-wise. But with Days with Frog and Toad, we've been focusing on two things, just as a reminder. We want to concentrate on the different characters, okay, like what Frog is like, what Toad's like, and we're going to do lots of different activities based on that. So we're going to talk about the character, and we're going to talk about the problem and the solution. Okay, so we're going to talk about those things. Now, problem means like what was going wrong in the chapter. Solution is basically how it got fixed. Now, we did a great job in chapter 1, which was called Tomorrow, right? And if we'll go back to what we had here, okay? So we talked about in Tomorrow, the problem was there was lots of chores to do for Toad. Okay, Toad had lots of chores to do. He wanted to stay in bed and take life easy, if you remember. But the solution was, you know what? He got out of bed and he said, let's get it done now so then he can rest the next day and take life easy. So he figured it out. He figured that although if he waited to do all those things, it would just pile on and pile on. He didn't want to do that. So that was the problem and solution in that chapter. But then we concentrated on Toad. This is what we did yesterday, just as a reminder. Okay, so this is going to help us get better at reading. Okay, in the beginning, he was down in the dumps. He was lazy. He wanted to stay in bed the whole time. But in the end, he was hardworking. He got his chores done and he became happy. And then, especially if you were like one of the older students, first or second grade, we should be putting some sentences in to compare and contrast. Toad changed by being lazy, but then got his work done. Okay, so explaining your thinking. Okay, and the beauty about having these lessons on video is that you can always stop, rewind, listen to the story again, use the evidence. Okay, now what is evidence? Evidence is actually what happens in the story. So if you really are into the story and learning, you'll get the good details, which will help you understand the evidence, so you can make your claim about what Toad did. When I said Toad changed, that was my claim. But my evidence was he was lazy, but then got his work done. He got his chores done. That actually happened in the story. So you want to use what actually happened. Now today, we're going to do something a little bit different. Okay, we're going to concentrate on chapter 2, Days with Frog and Toad. Okay, but today we're going to just concentrate on Frog. Okay, so as I'm reading chapter 2, okay, which is called The Kite, I want you to concentrate on Frog because what he does is a little bit different than Toad. Because last time we concentrated on Toad, this time we're going to concentrate on Frog. Okay, so really think about Frog and what he's doing in this chapter. Okay, so chapter 2 is called The Kite. Frog and Toad went out to fly a kite. They went to a large meadow where the wind was strong. Our kite will fly up and up, said Frog. It will fly all the way up to the top of the sky. Toad, said Frog, I will hold the ball of string. You will hold the kite and run. Toad ran across the meadow. He ran as fast as short legs could carry him. The kite went up in the air. It fell to the ground with a bump. Toad heard laughter. The robins were sitting in a bush. That kite will not fly, said the robins. You may as well give up. Toad ran back to Frog. Frog, said Toad, this kite will not fly. I give up. We must make a second try, said Frog. Wave the kite over your head. Perhaps that will make it fly. Toad ran back across the meadow. He waved the kite over his head. The kite went up in the air, then fell down with a thud. What a joke, said the robins. That kite will never get off the ground. Toad ran back to Frog. This kite is a joke, he said. It will never get off the ground. We have to make a third try, said Frog. Wave the kite over your head and jump up and down. Perhaps that will make it fly. Toad ran across the meadow again. He waved the kite over his head. He jumped up and down. The kite went up in the air and crashed down into the grass. That kite is junk, said the robins. Throw it away and go home. Toad ran back to Frog. This kite is junk, he said. I think we should throw it away and go home. Toad, said Frog, we need one more try. Wave the kite over your head. jump up and down, and shout, "Up, kite, up." Toad ran across the meadow. He waved the kite over his head. He jumped up and down. He shouted, "Up, kite, up." The kite flew into the air. It climbed higher and higher. "We did it!" cried Toad. "Yes," said Frog. "If a running try did not work, and a running and waving try did not work, and a running, waving, and jumping try did not work, I knew a running, waving, jumping, and shouting try just had to work." The robins flew out of the bush, but they could not fly as high as the kite. Frog and Toad sat and watched their kite. It seemed to be flying way up at the top of the sky. It's a really good chapter, okay? So let's concentrate first on the problem and the solution in the story. So take a couple of seconds, think about what was not working in the chapter, and then how do they get it to work, okay? So let's think about that. Okay, so again, we're going to use this chart here for all 5 chapters. So if you want to make this at home and keep a track of it as we go, that'd be great. So the first chapter was called Tomorrow. This one is called The Kite. Okay, so we have the kite right there. So you can see how I filled it in. If you want to fill it in the same way, go ahead. Now, what was the problem in the kite? Well, Toad and Frog couldn't do what? They couldn't get the kite to fly. So the kite would not fly. But I'm going to underline not, because the kite would not fly. Now, I'm really thinking, did the kite not fly one time? Okay, if I go back, one of the things about the video is if you can go back and listen again, how many times did the kite not fly? I remember, I'm going to put a 3 up here and circle that, because 3 different times they couldn't make the kite fly. Okay, it was really frustrating. So the solution was, okay, what did they do at the end? They kept, I'm going to just say kept on trying, and kite got up. I'm going to put 2 exclamation points because that's true. It kept on trying and finally got up. Now notice I'm not putting in complete sentences. I'm just kind of filling in, notes to go along, because it was really frustrating for them. The kite would not fly. Okay, they tried running, and jumping, okay, but finally I think it was like running, jumping, and shouting. Okay, that finally got it to work. So it kept on trying and the kite got up. So that's how I filled it in right there. Okay, so the problem was the kite would not fly, but they kept on trying. That was their solution. That's how they figured it out. So if you aren't able to understand that there was a problem in this chapter, but they worked really hard to get the solution, that's a really good job, and you're doing great at reading and you're getting better every single time. So that's the problem, the solution for the kite. Now, I told you guys at the beginning that the character we're going to concentrate on, okay, the character that we're going to concentrate on today is Frog, okay? So let me put Frog up here. Now, this is something that you might want to make too, okay? So if you want to stop and pause the video to make this on a piece of paper, that'd be good. But because if you can think of like, what we're thinking of is character traits. Now, when we say character traits, we say things that describe the character, like were they funny, were they sleepy, were they boring, were they exciting? How can we describe the character? Okay, so what's 4 ways we can describe the character? Okay, so if you want to pause and try it on your own, go ahead and do that. I'm gonna come up with words that I would say for Frog that would describe him. So I'm gonna say, number 1, he was positive. Okay. When I say positive, okay, he never quit. He kept working really hard. He tried his best. Even though Toad wanted to stop working all the time, Frog said, "You know what? We need another try." So I'm going to say he was not a quitter. Okay, so he was not a quitter. So I'm going to put that down there too. So I have Frog was positive. Frog was not a quitter. Okay, that's two things that would describe frog. What's another way you would describe frog? Okay, I'm gonna put a word, okay? Idea, okay? And if you want to buy an idea, I'm gonna put like a light bulb. Okay, he had a lots of, I should put ideas up because he had more than one idea, right? So he had ideas, okay, and I drew a light bulb in. So if you have trouble like spelling a word out or something, you can draw in what makes you think about frog right there, okay? So that's another way to think about what he did, okay? Frog with ideas. And then at the end, what did they do? They said they were really happy. I make a little smiley face because he was so happy that the kite got up, okay? So you can do that. And if you were like one of the first or second graders, you can take this and you can make a good solid sentence out of it to describe frog. So I would say, frog had a lot of ideas that helps him get the kite to fly. So you're taking what you had, you're taking your words that you used, and you're putting it into a good solid sentence or paragraph to know what type of character Frog was in this chapter called The Kite. Okay, so you older people can definitely do that. Younger guys, you know, as long as you can describe what Frog was like and be able to tell somebody about that, that'd be really good. Okay, so great job in the chapter. But with all the chapters now, I'm going to leave off with a choice of 4 things that you can do. Okay, so as I put these up here, these are 4 things you can do after reading this. That's a really good activity. Hopefully, it's going to be on the project template as well. So here's like a choice board of 4 things that you can do. Do one of the 4 things to help you understand the kite a little bit better. Number 1, you can make a kite. Okay, go out, fly a kite today, make a kite at home, draw it however you like. That'd be great. You could write or draw about a time you flew a kite. That might be fun. Okay, if you've ever done that, it's a really fun activity. Did it get up the first time? Was it the same as Frog and Toad? Did you have those same problems? Okay. You could also write or draw about a time you never gave up, okay, because that happened in the story. So you can compare yourself to Frog and Toad that way. And then another thing that you can do is 5 words that rhyme with kite. And if you're like an older person, you can put that in sentences. So like kite, write. I will write about a kite. Okay, so there are some choices right there. So this is a good way to reinforce what happened in that chapter to get a better understanding of the story because we're trying to understand our stories that we read a lot more. That's a huge thing moving forward and getting better at reading. So boys and girls, great job in chapter 2 of Frog and Toad. You're doing a great job learning at home. Keep it up. Keep up the hard work. Anytime, reach out with questions. john.d'antonio@truxtonacademy.org. I'll help you out anytime with whatever you need. Thanks a lot. See you tomorrow with chapter 3.